Title: My wife used her dad as an excuse, but the truth shattered her when she saw us together. When my wife, Emily, first mentioned she needed to spend more time helping her father, I didn't think twice about it. Her dad, Robert, had always been the type who insisted he was fine, but Emily often worried about him living alone since her mom passed away. She told me she'd be going over a few evenings each week to cook, clean, and keep him company. I admired her devotion, at least at first. I thought it showed the kind of daughter she was, and I respected that. But after a few weeks, something about the routine started to feel off. She wasn't just popping over for dinner anymore. Some nights she wouldn't come home until after midnight. Other times, she'd stay the night, claiming her dad had a rough day and she didn't want to leave him alone. When I asked for specifics, like what exactly was wrong, her answers were vague. "He's just lonely," she'd say, brushing me off with a forced smile. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't ignore the unease building inside me. For one, Robert himself didn't seem all that fragile. Whenever I visited, he seemed lively, cracking jokes and talking about his golf games. It didn't add up that Emily was suddenly needed so urgently, almost every day. Still, I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Marriage is built on trust, and I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. That all began to crumble the night I tried calling Robert directly. Emily had said she was with him making dinner. When he answered, his tone was surprised but warm. I asked how he was doing and casually mentioned I hoped Emily wasn't wearing herself out by being over there so often. Robert chuckled in confusion. "Son, I haven't seen Emily all week. What are you talking about?" My stomach dropped. I managed to end the call politely, but my hands were shaking as I put the phone down. My wife wasn't with her father. She'd been using him as an excuse. And if that was true, then who exactly was she with night after night? The realization gnawed at me for days. Every time Emily picked up her purse and said she was heading to her dad's, I felt like I was watching a stranger walk out the door. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I decided to be careful, quiet, observant. I needed the truth, not another excuse or carefully spun lie. One Friday evening, when she claimed she'd be keeping her dad company, I followed her. My heart raced the entire time, sweat dampening my shirt as I trailed her car at a safe distance. She didn't drive toward Robert's neighborhood at all. Instead, she pulled into the parking lot of a trendy downtown restaurant, where a man in a leather jacket was waiting outside. She stepped out, kissed him quickly, and they walked in together like it was the most natural thing in the world. My chest tightened, fury and heartbreak colliding in a storm I could barely contain. I sat there in my car, watching the woman I had trusted with my whole life laugh and touch another man like he was the center of her world. The worst part wasn't the kiss, it was her smile. A smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. I didn't storm in. That's what she would have expected me to do. Instead, I took pictures. Cold, undeniable evidence. My hands trembled as I zoomed in, capturing her hand resting on his, the way they leaned close across the table, the look in her eyes. When she finally came home that night, I pretended to be asleep on the couch. She slipped in quietly, smelling faintly of wine and perfume. For a moment, I wondered how long she had been lying to me. How many nights she had used Robert's name as a shield to hide behind. The next morning, I didn't confront her directly. Instead, I drove to Robert's house. He welcomed me in, cheerful as ever. When I told him the truth, that Emily had been using him as her excuse, his face fell in shock and disgust. "She told you she was here?" "Every night," he asked. I nodded grimly. Robert shook his head, his jaw tight. "Then you and I both deserve to know who she's really been with." Robert and I decided to find out together. That evening, when Emily said she'd swing by Dad's for dinner, I kept my face calm and simply nodded. But this time, Robert and I were already waiting at the restaurant where I had seen her before. We sat in a booth tucked into the corner, hidden behind a partition, with a clear view of the entrance. It didn't take long. Emily walked in, dressed to impress, scanning the room until her lover waved her over. She kissed him like she belonged to him, not a husband at home or a father she claimed to be caring for. My heart sank, but beside me Robert stiffened, his face pale with shock. We waited, letting her get comfortable, laughing and sipping wine with her secret companion. Finally, Robert stood up. His presence drew eyes immediately. He was tall, commanding. Emily turned, her smile fading the instant she saw him. And then her eyes widened when she saw me rising beside him. The color drained from her face. She froze, caught between her father and her husband, the two men she thought she could deceive without consequence. "Dad, Mark, I can explain," she stammered, but her voice broke. "No," Robert said, his voice trembling with anger and disappointment. "You used me. You dragged my name into your lies to cover your betrayal. Do you have any idea how ashamed I feel right now?" She tried to reach for him, but he pulled back. Then she turned to me, tears brimming. "Mark, please." But I'd heard enough. I placed the photos on the table in front of her lover. "I don't need explanations, Emily. I just need the truth, and now I have it." The restaurant had gone quiet, diners pretending not to stare but clearly listening. Emily's lover shifted uncomfortably, realizing the weight of the scene he'd stepped into. Emily, meanwhile, crumbled under the silence of the two men who had once been her strongest supports. I walked out with Robert at my side, leaving her in that moment of shattered lies. My wife had tried to use her father as an excuse, but the truth destroyed her far more than either of us ever could.